Hey everyone, this is Nick on Control Nick, and today we're going to learn about filled maps on Excel. Let's head on over to the workbook so I can show you exactly what a filled map is and how it works. All right, we're in the workbook now, and just to let you know, so a filled map is essentially a map of either a continent or a country where you can add in color coding to exemplify areas that are maybe more dense with a certain variable versus other areas of that country or continent or whatever you're comparing to. So let's say that we want to look at different states in the US. So firstly, let's just make some random states here. We can do with Arkansas, we can do Illinois, let's do Florida, Texas, Alabama, let's do Missouri as well. So these are the states, and as you can see, Excel is already showing that you can convert these to a geography. So I can already tell that you're starting to create some sort of filled-in chart. Now what we want to do is maybe let's go with a variable that we're interested in. Maybe it could be cost per Big Mac. So for the cost per Big Mac, this is how we want to compare. So we're going to use a dollar amount for each of these different states, and you can fill in more and more if you want. But let's just say it's $6.70 in Arkansas. Maybe it's $8.50 in Florida. Maybe it's $6.50. Texas, maybe it's similar to Florida. Alabama could be similar, and maybe Missouri is a little cheaper. I don't know. But you can put in that amount, and then I'm just going to highlight, and I'm just going to turn these to dollar values. You don't have to do that. This is just for some formatting. Now, the filled map is very straightforward. All you need to do is highlight the two variables that you're interested in. One is the geography that you're using, and then the next variable is actually just the variable in itself. So if I highlight over this full section here, all you do is go to Insert, Maps, Filled Map. And you can see when you click on that, it automatically populates the United States for you. And then also what it shows is the filled in amounts and color coded based off of what is the most expensive versus what's the most cheap. And what you can do is you can always add in extra layers. So the first thing I'm going to do in this filled map is I'm just going to drag it over. So I'm just selecting and holding down on the edge, and then you can drag the map over. You can also make the map larger or bigger if you drag over these different points that you have on the map. So let's just align this a little bit here. And then what we're going to do is let's just say we want to add a little more states as we go. So you can see when you have the map selected, it shows the array that you're working with, and you can hold down and drag to say that you're getting ready to prepare for a few more spots to fill in. So the map will give this little warning sign just to say, hey, your array is going further than what's actually needed, but that's also completely fine because we're just going to fill in as we go. And then a little quick trick I like to do is based off of where you end the array, just hold in the bottom right corner and drag up. And I'm going to go to Home, and then I'm just going to go to a white background. Then you know that's the full array that we're working with here. Let's add a couple more just to show you what it starts to look like. So for California, I'll just add in that state, and let's assume that maybe it's 965, for example. You can see it all of a sudden then fills in California, and now all of a sudden the series updates with the color coding or the conditional formatting in there. It's a really quick and easy tool. It doesn't have to just be dollar values. It can be any type of numerical value that you would like to use to compare different states. And this doesn't just work with the US, it also works with different countries around the world, different continents. It depends on what you need to show, but Excel does give you that flexibility to work with. And like other charts in Excel, you can actually go select near the edge, and then you have this little plus sign in the top right corner. And that's where you can also change chart elements. There's not as many chart elements as a bar chart or a line graph, so you don't have as much customization, but you can make this customization in here. So if you want, you can check off data labels, and it'll show data labels in there. You can uncheck that. You can deselect the title or have a title in there. You can do the same thing with the legend. It's completely up to you. You can also, if you're used to working with other charts, you know that if you right-click in the graph itself, all the way at the bottom, there's Format Chart Area. And in there, you can play around with the coloring that we're looking at, the fill, the border, all of that good stuff. So the first thing I actually want to do is let's get rid of the legend there. We don't need the legend at the moment. We just want to look at the fill colors and what shows as what pops out the most. Then now that we're in chart elements, Let's just go to a solid fill, and we can make this a little bit oceanic. So let's just do a lighter blue color. And then I like to put a solid line color. So let's do I have a dark teal. You can make it whatever you'd like, but I'm just going to use a darker blue for this. Then what you can do is go to the size and properties. So I really like to make sure if I'm adding or adjusting columns, it doesn't skew the graph. So if you see here, if I click on column E, and let's say I add a column between column D and column E. So I'm going to right click and do insert. You can see it expands the size of the graph, and I just don't want that to happen. So I'm going to do Control Z to undo. And when I click back into the graph itself, I'm going to go back to size and properties, go to properties, and move but don't size with the cell. So now if I go into the columns again, right click and insert, you can see the columns expand, but it doesn't impact the graph. So that's just for your own benefit, and especially if you're really happy with the formatting that you've used. Now we can actually adjust the formatting in the colors of the graph. So we have blue, but maybe you want to use a different color, and I just want to show you how you can do that also. So all you do is you click into the graph, and if you're already in the format chart area, underneath where you have this little button here called series options, a lot of these are set as automatic, and I would suggest leaving that as is, but you can play around with it if you want. But there's a series color option that you can select, and you can use 2 to 3 different colors. So it's defaulted as sequential, which is just 2 colors, but you can also do diverging, which is 3 colors as well. For the sake of this view, we'll just show with the sequential, just because it's easiest to show what's cheapest versus most expensive. And maybe we want to say actually that the minimum value is the cheapest. So maybe we make that a dark green, and the maximum value is what's most expensive, so we can make that red. And you can see it easily updates for you, and it shows that color coding and how it works with a wider range. So now let's say we add in, let's use Maine as an example. And Maine will update for us, and let's say actually it's the cheapest in Maine for whatever reason. It's $3.25 for a Big Mac. You can see that now updates as the cheapest, but we still have California being the most expensive. What was the quick tutorial on how to use a filled map in Excel? If you found it interesting, please consider liking and subscribing. It helps out with the channel, and selecting either of the above videos popping up on your screen. Thanks so much for watching, and have an amazing day.